Hey everyone, it's time to get started with our Jen Stark project. So hopefully you have watched the intro video and learned a little bit more about her as an artist. It is not so often that we get to talk about a living, breathing artist, an American artist, that we can make direct references to. She is very young and has made a quick name for herself, and it's more because that she makes these vibrant, colorful pieces that just makes people happy, but they're also innovative too. So we are going to focus on one of her main tendencies in art, I should say. So her main medium is kind of these drips, right? She's done a lot of other things too, but these drips are what she's really famous for. So we're going to go ahead and practice in our sketchbook how to draw these drips, okay? So we're not copying her, we're kind of imitating her and taking inspiration from her artwork, okay? So I have my sketchbook and it is landscape. So my spiral is on top right now with my paper underneath, and I'm on a nice clean sheet. I've got a sharpened pencil and I've got my magic rub handy. Now, the trick for this project is not to draw super small, but also not to draw super big. So making sure that our spacing kind of follows along with my guidelines as we go. All right, so let's jump right in. We're going to start at the top and work our way down so that we can overlap properly. So it doesn't matter where you start. Along the top, we're going to treat this like it's the top edge of the paper. And I am going to kind of draw in a shape. Okay, that shape starts and stops at the top, and I make some kind of wiggles down here. We don't want to see, you know what, I'm going to jump to a new fresh piece of paper. I just realized I was drawn on the back side of something else. So let's do that again. So again, I went from the top and I went down and I kind of changed my length and distance of these guys. What I don't want to see is like super detail, lots of bumps. That's going to get way too complicated. So this is a no. We want to keep it more simple, okay? So from there, we're actually going to go and use the interior of this space, and we are going to kind of trace in parallel shapes inside here. Okay, so that would be one. So I'm going up right now. Here comes another one. Eventually, I'm not going to be able to go down into those little drops. Okay, they're going to kind of get smaller as we go. All right, so that's actually pretty good. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4 sections here. If I wanted to, I could add a small 5th section right there. All right, so one drip is done. So now we're going to move on. We are going to underlap. So as we go, we're never going to really overlap. We're always going to work underneath a little bit. So we're going to connect to this one and pretend like a new drip is starting over here. Okay, and it would go off the edge of the paper. So then again, I'm treating this as a different shape than the first one. And I'm tracing up and around. Trying to keep it as parallel as possible to the original shape and keeping my distance about the same, okay? All right, so the biggest thing is I need to know where my overlap and underlap is, so I'm gonna actually go over it with my pencil just a little bit harder right there so I can see where this one stops and this one starts. Okay, we're gonna go over here, do the same thing over here. I'm gonna come down a little further. I'm going to smooth this out a little bit. Okay, so now I'm going to go back and repeat my steps, parallel tracing. They're not really concentric shapes though, because that shape is going to change every single time that we do our parallel line through. All right. So then if I want to know where that one is, I'm going to just darken up this line just a little bit so I can see where that overlap and underlap is. All right, so then how do we build down our paper? Well, we're still going to work underlaps, okay? So I am going to maybe do one in between these two. Okay, and then again, I would go back, and I'm never crossing through a section that I did before. My lines always stop when they hit another one of the shapes. And I do have to kind of be careful. When I start to go through here, I have to stop, but then restart and finish the shape. So you definitely have to take your time and really focus on where you are starting and stopping each one. Okay, and I think I'm done with that one. Okay, and I can pretty much tell where that overlap and underlap is, so I'm not worried about adding another one there. So now I'm moving on to over here. And I'm adding to it. Okay, we are not actually going to fill the entire page. We want to see an edge, a drip. Our drips are going to stop. And we're going to have kind of a bottom drip. Okay, so I have to keep going all the way up through there. Okay, all right. So I need to decide, is this going to be my edge too? Do I want to leave empty space over here? I kind of like this shape, so I am going to leave some empty space. Remember that these drips are our positive space. That's the content of our artwork. This right here is our negative space right now. So I have to decide how much negative space do I want on my paper and how much positive space. I want a little bit more positive space, so I'm going to go ahead and do at least one more drip. And maybe two. Kind of depends. Make a bigger one there. So all pencil today. We're not worried about any color yet. Coming through, down and around. I'm gonna finish this section over here. Finish this one. All right. I like it, and I'm kind of thinking maybe I'll do like another smaller one, maybe like right over here, or do I need one over here? I can't really decide. I'm gonna go ahead and add a little bit to this side over here. So we want most of our paper filled. We don't want to leave a lot of empty space. So even if you only have a smaller shape like that, it is important to kind of include that. All right, this is it for step one. We are in our sketchbook. Remember, we're not worried about moving on to plain paper. This was all about practicing. I do want you to pay attention to the width of my lines. None of them are super far apart or super close together. I tried to keep them as consistent as possible as I went. If you're noticing that you're starting to bunch them up and getting them super close together, that's exactly why we use our sketchbook. So we can always flip to a new paper and try again. Because the coloring part of this project is going to go pretty quick and it's going to be pretty simple, but it's the drawing part that we need to be, even though it looks really simple, there's not a lot of detail going on. It's how you actually lay out your composition, what's making up your artwork. That's going to be super important, because if your lines are super close together, it's going to make the coloring part harder. If they're super far apart, you're not going to get too much, you get to be able to use too much color at all. All right, guys, enjoy step one.